to talk about the view from Iowa, the state with the first presidential caucus. We are so pleased to call on Steve Deace, a good friend of this program, radio talk show host, political advocate, and author of this book, Rules for Patriots: How Conservatives Can Win Again. Steve is Skyping in from Des Moines, Iowa this morning. Steve, it's always good to have you here. Start with this question. I appreciate it. Is Jeb Bush a conservative?
I think when you look at the way he governed fairly conservative, but the way he's positioned himself nationally, which is what people look at when they are vetting a president, I mean, he is anything but. I mean, listen to the clip you played of former President George W. Bush, his brother versus his sister-in-law. I mean, what is this, the Habsburg dynasty? We're going to have an 8th election since 1980 with a Bush or a Clinton on the ballot. The American people really have ruling class fatigue, JD, and you're seeing it with how new faces like Ben Carson, Ted Cruz, Elizabeth Warren, on both sides of the aisle, how they're taking off. They want new blood, somebody that hasn't betrayed them yet, somebody that hasn't disappointed them yet, somebody that hasn't lined their pockets off of the system yet. And if you look back over the last 5 decades of presidential elections, there is a proven formula for Republicans to win the White House. Jeb Bush violates it. And I'll tell you today, what is it, December 17th, 2014, I will guarantee you, Jeb Bush, unless the Democrats nominate somebody who vacations with NAMBLA in Thailand, Jeb Bush is never going to be president of the United States. This is an exercise in futility. Even if he wins the nomination, he will not win, JD, because he violates the formula.
All right, fair enough, Steve. Now, we're going to call on another perspective. Skyping in from Washington, D.C. and Newsmax, Washington, we're joined by Frank Cannon, president of American Principles Project. Easy for me to say, right? Perhaps I'm taking a look at his resume, where he has served as an advisor across the ideological spectrum to John McCain as well as Rick Santorum in their presidential campaigns. So, Frank, let me welcome you in. And you heard what Steve Deace had to say. With a minute 30, are you willing to issue a blanket statement that Jeb Bush will not become president of the United States?
I wouldn't make a blanket statement, but I'd certainly, if I were placing a bet, place a bet on Steve Deace's thesis. I think that Jeb Bush is the kind of corporatist Republican that winds up not ever getting to the White House, and I think that he's probably correct.
But in terms of getting a jump, just tactically here in the short term, with that announcement via social media, does that basically knock Romney out of the mix, and does it neutralize the other corporatists like Chris Christie? Frank Cannon, first to you. We got a minute left. I'll give you 30 seconds each. 30 seconds to you, Frank.
Not completely, but the money-raising ability of the Bush family gives him a tremendous leg up.
What about it, Steve Deace? What about the Bush family network and all that money that Jeb presumably can count on? 30 seconds.
I think it'll be an establishment bloodbath next year, JD. I don't think Chris Christie's just going to move aside. I don't think Romney will just move aside. I agree with Frank. It gives him a leg up. But for once, the establishment will be splintered like the conservatives, and that will be fun to watch, because whenever corporatist blood gets spilled, JD, America wins.
Well, we will see what happens as the battle lines are clearly drawn between the establishment corporatist Republicans and the grassroots conservatives. There is so much to talk about with a possible presidential campaign, and the issues such as amnesty being a hot button. These two gentlemen join us again. You stick here too. More on America's Forum after this.